Hey, and welcome to this week's The Spur, where we want to spur one another on to love and to good deeds, as it says in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24. And so this is The Spur, where we want to do just that. And we started last week a new series called Tools for Mission. And these tools are about what do we need in order to live our life on mission. And last week we talked about probably where it all begins for all of us in our life is our testimony, what God has done in our life, our receiving of the love of God and the grace of God, the mercy of God, the goodness of God, the power of God. Wow, there's just so much that can form part of our testimony. And when it comes to sharing the good news, when it comes to living a life on mission, it all begins there. It all begins with what God has done first. Before we did anything, it's what he did for us. But today, I'm going to talk about maybe a bit of a response to that, of God's love and grace, towards us, and how this is a tool for us. And I'm talking about our love for God. And it sounds weird kind of framing it in this context of tools for mission. Surely God's love for us is bigger than a tool. Surely our love for God is bigger than a tool. And of course, those things are, but these are so necessary. If we're going to live our life on mission, these are things that we really need before we will actually live our lives on mission with the effectiveness that we would want to see. And so I'm talking today about this second tool, which is a love for God. Your love for God and my love for God. And probably one of the best passages we can look at for this is found in Mark chapter 12, verse 30 to 31, where Jesus is saying, and he's talking about having this conversation, but what comes out is that we're to love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind, and all our strength. I'll put the verse up on the screen there so you can see that we love the Lord your God with all our heart and soul and mind and strength. And so how do we do that? We'll just break that down a little bit today. Going to break it down really quickly just to stay within the shorter message format that these are. But to love the Lord our God with all our heart, that's where God is first, where he has first place in our life. Where there's no areas of our life where we kind of relegate God down to second or third, but that God would have number one place, that we'd love him first before we love anything or anyone else, that we love God first, that he has our heart, that our affections are set towards him, that he has our first priority, our first agenda is him, that we've surrendered to him, that he's first in everything. So we love the Lord your God with all your heart. He's number one. And then love the Lord your God with all your soul. And that's where we seek him passionately, that we have a desire to want to be with him. And that's maybe a good little litmus test. Do we love the Lord our God with all our soul? And maybe a way that we can reframe that is, do we desire to spend time with him? Be beyond a church service on a Sunday. Do we have a desire to actually want to spend time with God each day? Whether it's in prayer, whether it's in worship, whether it's in reading the Bible. Do we have a desire that we would love the Lord our God with all our soul? You know what it's like when you meet someone for the first time and you think they might be the one and you want to spend all your time with them. That's what I'm talking about here, that we would love the Lord our God with all our soul, that there is a desire to want to spend time with him. With all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our mind. And this is about knowing about God. This is about our intellect. This is about our understanding of God and wanting to know more about him. Now, I have some friends who know everything that there is to know about Marvel. They certainly know more than I do about all the Marvel characters, or there's other friends who love all the Star Wars characters and all the storylines, and they keep track of all of that. And then there's other friends I have that are right into the Lord of the Rings, and they can tell you about all the different lands and what creatures are from all the different lands, and the Bilbo Bagginses and the Gandalfs and all that sort of stuff. And they can tell you because they've studied deeply those things. And the challenge for us to love the Lord our God with all our mind is, do we study Jesus like that? Can we wrap our intellect and our capacity for wanting to know more around wanting to know Jesus more? What does Jesus like? What does Jesus not like? When did Jesus pray? When did he take himself away to pray? Who did he spend his time with? Who did he love to draw alongside? How many miracles did he do that we know about? Just to know that we can study him deeply. Love Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. And lastly, to love the Lord our God with all our strength. That we'd serve him fully. That we'd give our best efforts to loving him and doing the things that he's called us to do, and that we would do that wholeheartedly, that we'd serve him fully. So that's the encouragement for us today. This is the second tool, that it's our love for God, that we love him with all our heart and all our soul, with all our mind and with all our strength, with everything that we've got, with all our effort, not holding anything back from him. I hope this is encouraging you today. It's encouraged me as I've just been preparing some of these thoughts for us today. And so I encourage you, and on this truth, that we love because he first loved us, as it says in 1 John. So it's his love for us and our love for him, a testimony that we have. Those first two tools are what we need to live our life on mission. And next week, we're going to start getting into some more other tools where it maybe gets a little bit more practical. God bless you, and bye-bye.